Hello and welcome back. We continue working of the f7, f5 ideas in the Ruy Lopez, and we are going to cover today the Cordel Gambit variation after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. So instead of playing f5 or instead of playing a6, bishop a4 and f5, Black immediately could start with move bishop c5. First of all, this move is not losing the pawn on e5. So white cannot play bishop takes, d takes, and knight takes e5 because at least there is opportunity for black to play queen d4, and we are reaching the e4 or f2 pawns. At the same time, the knight on e5 is hanging, so after the best knight d3 and queen takes e4, black already reaching slightly better position because of the two bishops advantage. Also, it's quite difficult for white to play for advantage, for instance in case of move like d3, since f6, and then black bringing the knight to e7, so the bishop could go to g4, to the most aggressive outpost. Two bishops fully compensate the slight problems on the pawns chain, double pawns on the queen side. It means that white should try play here in the center, and usual reaction for white after bishop c5 is to play c3 and d4, trying to build the strong pawn center. So c3 is one of the main and the most important outcomes of this variation. And now, instead of playing knight f6, instead of playing queen e7, black immediately start the action. Very aggressive move, f7, f5. I found many interesting games in this line, and even the top player like Ivan Sokolov tried to use this sharp opening gambit line as part of his repertoire. However, I would like to start with the game played in 1978 between Jose Antonio Castillo and Luis Bronstein. Don't mix it, of course, with the name of one of the greatest Soviet grandmaster and challenger of the world championship match, David Bronstein. So Luis Bronstein is the Argentinian grandmaster. So played in Buenos Aires Olympiad 1978. After bishop takes c6, d takes c6, white decide to play knight takes e5, and black answers here bishop d6. So this is one of the main ideas from black side. Clear that playing f takes e4 would be extremely dangerous because of queen h5. Just black's king is just too open. So now in case of g6 and knight take g6, the bishop is hanging. At the same time, the h7 pawn is pinned. So white is achieving advantage. So black starts here usually from the move bishop to d6 and d4, f takes e4. So the first critical position which I would like you to analyze, because white has quite sound move queen h5 check. For the first time, this move looks like almost winning the game, queen h5 check. And after g6, white could try and play knight takes g6. That exactly happened in the current game. However, later on we will understand that knight takes g6 probably not the best move in such a position. Knight takes g6 move gives black the opportunity to develop very unpleasant attack against the white's king. Knight f6. So now white has only two options, or to play with queen to h4 or to play with queen to h6. And in both cases, white's position is extremely dangerous. For instance, after queen h6, rook g8 and knight e5, black simply could play rook takes g2. Now bishop g5 would be met by bishop takes e5, d takes e5, bishop g4, threatening the checkmate on d1, And after knight d2 and queen d3, look at that. Suddenly white's king just cannot be saved. No way to stop the checkmate on e2. As a try to play knight h4, also hardly could be recommended. Black could answer bishop f8, and after queen e3 and queen e7, he has a lot of very unpleasant ideas. One of the threat is knight d5. Black is also aiming to move the knight to d5, where knight on h4 is hanging. In position after knight f6, white usually tries to move his queen to h4. And again black answers rook g8, knight e5. Looks like white is doing very good. Now if rook takes g2, then white really could play bishop g5. However, bishop takes e5, d takes e5. Again, for the first sign, there is no problem for white. Black's knight on f6 is hanging. White is having material advantage, so he is also threatening to play bishop g5. However, after the next move, white hardly even could escape from this black mating attack against the white's king, which is stuck in the center. So not rook take g2, not knight g4, allowing white to swap the queens, not knight d5, not rook g4 because queen takes f6. But look at that move, queen to d3. Very big surprise. So now we could realize that there is not so simple for white to stop black's threats against the white's king. Okay, the first direct threat of course is bishop g4. Now queen takes f6 would be met by bishop g4, and black is winning almost immediately. The main point that black is also intending to play rook d8 in some variation. So second option, of course, how to stop queen d1 and queen e2. So white could try and play f3 in this position, but after capturing, there is still very difficult to find any normal way how to save the game. After g takes f3, black simply could start with rook f8, avoiding any tricks, and the next move bishop takes f3 is just decisive one. So if queen takes f6 is not possible, maybe white could try and to play here knight d2, still bishop g4, f3 only way to stop the checkmate, e takes f3, g takes f3, queen e3 check, king d1 and bishop takes f3, and under the huge material losses, of course, black is forcing the easy victory. So after knight takes f3, queen takes f3, the king also in the mating net and also the rook on h1 is going for no compensation. At the same time, black is intending rook g2 threatening, continues the attack against the white's king, of course. So if white tries to play king f1, again bishop f5 threatening bishop d3, doesn't leave white any hope to escape from this mating net. After queen d3, white also could try maybe to play e takes f6, but then again bishop g4, f3 and e takes, g takes, bishop takes f3, no checks. f7 check always could be met by king takes f7, and black's king easy escape, queen check, king e6, and forcing white to play queen e3. After queen takes, bishop takes e3 and bishop takes h1, black is gaining the rook for nothing, so he has decisive material advantage. Okay, let's back to the critical position after queen d3. So one of the last opportunities for white to organize sound defense is h2 h3 move, trying to stop bishop g4, and this move happened in few of the games. Black continue his attack with bishop e6, again double threat. Threat number 1 bishop c4, threat number 2 long castling. So black is continue attacking and continue playing temping chess, not allowing white any opportunities to start the counterattack. Now again queen takes f6 could be met by bishop c4, and white is in very big trouble. E takes f6 after long castling. Queen h5 could be made by a very nice move. Could you find it? Black to move here, and bishop g4, fantastic resource. So overreading the d1 square now after h take g4, queen d1. This is a checkmate. After queen take g4 and rook take g4, queen d1 checkmate is coming. So e takes f6 is also not possible. Knight a3 after long castling and bishop g5. In the game Porshust and Boschnetti Medristan 1986 Open Tournament continues. e3. So black is playing for the direct attack, so setting queen d2, then e2, and then e1 queen. White should accept the sacrifice and to play bishop takes e3 and knight e4. So here two options, but both leads to the decisive mating attack against white's king. White's main problem not is a king given here, but the rook are not connected. Queen out of the game, knight out of the game. So black is having the full mobilization of all the forces. So the pieces are centralized and ready for finishing the maiden attack against the white's king. So white tried to play g4, and after rook g to f8, rook f1 and rook e3, white resigned because there is no way to stop rook takes e3 with a checkmate. If instead of playing g4, white tries to play queen h6, rook g6, queen takes h7, so how could black finish the game here immediately? This is a move. Knight to g3, and there is no way to stop the checkmate. Queen e2. After f take g3, queen takes e3 check, king f1 and rook f8. Again, white's king is just one move left before being checkmated. After queen f7, rook takes f7. So after bishop e6, again you can see that it's almost impossible for white to escape from this position. White answered knight d2. Again long castling. New threat e2 e3. And here white had the last chance maybe to play queen takes f6. And after e3 to play queen takes e6 and trying to sacrifice all the material but to escape with a king from the mating net. After queen takes e6, king b8 to play maybe queen h6, e takes f2, king takes f2, queen g3. So you see black is continue his strong attack against the white's king, but there is only maybe chance somehow to find the c2 saving square for the king. Definitely position after queen takes h1 probably still much better for black, but white at least has some practical chances. Instead of capture on f6, white played queen h6 trying to stop e2 e3. However, knight d5, queen takes e6, king b8, queen f5, and black finished the game quite easily. How? If you play black in this position, what way would you press white's position? Simply knight e3. So this additional sacrifice completely destroys white's position. F takes e3, queen takes e3. You can ask why not queen takes e4. However, after knight c2 and king d1, now the d2 knight is pinned. So queen takes e4 simply wins piece. So white captures f takes e3, queen takes e3, check. King cannot go to f1 because rook f8. And there is no time for white to organize tricks like knight f3 because white's king is going to be checkmated. Rook d1. So only move king d1. Rook takes g2. Threatening rook takes d2 and the checkmate. King c2. And rook d to d2, check. Bishop takes d2. queen takes d2, king b3, queen takes b2, king c4, queen b5 check, king d4, queen d5 check. White resigned. His king is going to be checkmated after king e3, queen d3, king f4, and queen f3 checkmate. So, amazing game, I could say. That one of the great examples of how to attack against the king, which is stuck in the center. The way how black developed his initiative was not so simple, because it required just also quite serious calculations and imaginations, of course. So here and there black sacrificed the piece, e6 bishop, f6 knight, but his main reason for all these sacrifices, of course, the position of white's king on e1 and undeveloped white forces. So rook on h1 and rook on a1, even here, were not participating in the fight. That could explain the great success of black in this game. So remember that develop your pieces is one of the main and the most important task in the opening phase of the chess game. So after looking at the game, I would like to show you the next example when with the black pieces played Vladimir Savon against Andrei Silensky, played in Oriol tournament 1998, where after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, bishop c5, c3, Vladimir Savon answered f5. So I would like to tell you that Vladimir Savon was one of the strongest Soviet Union chess players in the early 70s of the previous century, and he becomes the Soviet Union champion in 1971 and played even in the Olympic in 1972. So he was just quite famous grandmaster. And this game played in 1991, when of course he was not so young, but still, look at that. The game lasted only 12 moves, and see the result of the aggressive counter attack in the Cordel Gambit variation. So white is trying after f5 to play d4, not bishop takes c6, and after f takes e4, bishop takes c6 only here, d takes c6, knight takes e5, and bishop d6, queen h5 check, g6. So Andrei Silensky probably knew that knight takes g6 leads to the big trouble after knight f6, so the position which we just analyzed, and he decides to play queen e2. Later on we will see that this is one of the strongest responses for white, and big surprise, black simply plays bishop f5, knight d2, and bishop takes e5. So today's theory says that white almost forced to capture on e4. However, why not to capture on e4? It looks like this move is even stronger than a capture on e5 immediately. Hardly even black can capture on e4, because after queen takes e4 the bishop on g7 is hanging and pinned, of course, so white is getting material and positional advantage. Black is to move. What would you recommend here? To forget about this bishop on e5? Vladimir Savon found very unusual decision. He played bishop g7, and any discovery check with the knight, not giving any serious threat from against the black's king. Let's say knight e6 could be met by simple move king f8. Knight f6, also nothing. Simply king f7. Knight c5, even after king f8, black is having extra piece without much compensation. So only now white realized that his only chance is to play bishop g5 trying to force black to play queen d7, then to play knight f6. So this discovery check could be really very dangerous. So how black responds? Very simple. Savon simply played knight e7 and forced white to resign. White just simply pieced down without any compensation. On knight f6, so black simply like to answer king f7, and queen c4 could be met also by bishop e6, even by knight to d5, and black is getting decisive material advantage. Knight takes d5, queen takes d5, extra piece and no any compensation. So very short game and short catastrophe. Of course, white overlooked this brilliant bishop g7 move. So I would like to look at the critical position. I could tell you that even here, after a bishop takes e5, white still could try playing for advantage, and this is shown by the game between Motelov and Ivan Sokolov in Paykovsky 2010. So just a year ago, Ivan Sokolov used this opening line against 2700 players. D takes e5, and here black has also two options. Option number one is queen d5, which was played by Sokolov, and also black could try playing queen d3. Here after queen takes d3, e takes d3, knight f3, and long castling. This position occurred in the game between Krejci and Novak in the Pleasant 1995 Open tournament, where black after 38 move made a draw after the quite sharp battle. So with opposite color bishop, white is having a positional advantage and slightly better endgame. That's why maybe it was a decision which Sokolov played. Interesting move, queen d5. Let's look at the continuation of the game. Knight c4, bishop e6. So the fight now is going near the e5 pawn. So white is trying to protect this pawn, black is trying to win it. b3, long castling, very important move. Of course, black should finish his development as soon as possible. In short castling, queen d3, queen b2. So white is trying to keep the pieces on the board. The problem is that after queen takes d3 and rook takes d3, so black is intending to capture on c4 and just to bring the knight to e7 to f5 and trying to take control over the d file. So black's rook is just very strong post on d3. So white's exposed queenside pawns could be an easy target for this strong rook on d3. So that is the reason why Motelov decided to play queen b2. But after bishop takes c4, b takes c4, and queen takes c4, we now reach extremely complicated fight, which ended in a draw after 26 move. So Motelov played in this position queen a3, and after a6, rook b1. So white, of course, has his own advantages in this position. Black tries to play c5, and after bishop g5, rook d3, e6, b6, rook f2 e1, h6, e7, king d7. It seems to me that white's play could be improved in this position because pawn on e7 is so dangerous. Black should bring his king in the center for stopping this pawn from being promoted. f3, e3, rook b to d1, knight takes e7, rook takes d3, queen takes d3, and very soon in this position the players agreed to draw. The problem that after rook takes e3, queen d1 check, and king f2, black simply captures the piece after h take g5, and just black is having extra piece for no compensation. Motelov played queen a4 and offered here draw, so the position is very complicated. White is trying to play maybe queen g4 next move. So maybe next move bishop takes e3. So in this very complicated position, players agreed to a draw. But I still have some feeling that White could improve a bit his play and play for advantage, since position after this position doesn't seem so promising for Black. You see the knight not developed yet, so White's pawn hardly could be captured because queen takes a6 would help White to develop almost a decisive attack against the Black's king. Indeed, let's back to the critical position after a bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and knight takes e5. Bishop c5, c3, f5, and now we saw d4 move. So this is a move transportation. So after bishop takes c6, d takes c6, knight takes e5, bishop d6, d4. Black, instead of playing f takes e4, also could try and play bishop takes e5. The endgame after taken on e5, queen takes d1, king takes d1, and f takes e4. According to the theory, considered slightly better for White after both f4 or bishop g5, but look what happened, let's say the move in the position after f4. E takes f4, f3, g takes f3. Now Black's bishop comes very fast into the game, so Black would play immediately bishop f5 or knight e7. So let's say after knight e7, bishop f3 and knight g6, f4. Black suddenly answered short castling, and White cannot protect this pawn on f4. Rook f1 could be met by knight takes e5. So other interesting example, when after f takes e4, White tried to win this pawn on e4 and played knight d2. In the Tutinik of Tarasov, played in 1997, after knight d2, bishop f5, king e2, Black answered rook d8, f3, e takes f3, knight takes f3, bishop d3, and now Black position, of course, very good. Opposite color bishop only increase the pressure over the White's king, so he threats now to castle short side. After bishop g5, h6, bishop takes e7, king takes e7, rook h2 e1, c5, h4, c4, rook ad1, king e6, rook f8 first. So Black achieved very good position. King e3, c5. So pawn on e5 weak. So Black is intending to bring the king to e6. And again, it's extremely difficult for White to play this kind of situation when the bishop on d3 is so strong and Black is ready to organize the attack on the queen side after b5, a5, and b4. So clear that only Black could play for win this kind of position. So we just make only the short overview of the lines in the Cordel Gambit variation in the Ruy Lopez, and already you see that it's not so easy for White to play for advantage. And Black's active opportunities in the center and option to attack White's king, which is in the center for a long while. We definitely could try playing this opening line and could